Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
The views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The camp of Vice President Sara Duterte said they will refrain from making further comments out of respect for the impeachment process.
The Senate formally convenes as an impeachment court and summons Vice President Sara Duterte.
The International Criminal Court recognizes Peter Haines as former President Duterte's new counsel.
Water levels in the Angat and San Roque dams continued to decline over the past 24 hours. Pag-asa attributed the drop to reduced inflows from watershed rainfall and river sources amid persistent dry conditions across the country.
First in the news, the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte has moved to the Senate floor. Senators have taken their oaths as members of the impeachment court and summons have been ordered. Here's the report.
Solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear.
Wearing their maroon robes, the senators have taken their oath as senator judges in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
I state your name. Solemnly swear that in all things pertaining to the trial of the impeachment of Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte, now pending, I will do impartial justice, according to the Constitution and the laws of the Philippines. So help me God.
Senate President Alan Cayetano also took his oath as the presiding officer. This marks the formal convening of the Senate as an impeachment court. Presiding officer Alan Cayetano then ordered the issuance of a writ of summons to Vice President Sara Duterte, which she must answer within 10 calendar days after receiving it. She was also ordered to appear before the impeachment court when summoned.
The prosecution may file a reply within a non-extendable period of 5 days from receipt of the answer. The parties may file their pleadings and annexes in person or through electronic mail.
VP Sara's camp, for its part, vowed to comply and file the appropriate response in accordance with the Constitution. They also said they will refrain from making further comment out of respect for the process. New Senate Secretary Jose Luis Montales also took his oath. He will serve as clerk of court and will set the calendar for the pre-trial. In the opening prayer of Senator Kiko Pangilinan, he asked that justice prevail in the trial against the Vice President.
Nawayang magiging pasya, bawat pasya namin ay nakatuntong sa katotohanan, ebidensya at konsensya.
Senator Bongo assured the public he will be fair even if he is allied with the Dutertes.
Mandato po namin na magkampanan po ang aming tungkulin bilang Senator Judge. And dapat po maging impartial po kami. Whether Duterte Black, kung anong black man po yan, Pilipino po kami. Dapat kampanan namin ang aming tungkulin. At ako naman magiging impartial po ako.
In an interview with One News's Political Beat, Kabataan Representative Rene Co says she was surprised that the Senate convened as an impeachment court. Co has been assigned as one of the spokesperson of the House prosecution panel.
Well, personally, in my personal capacity, may surprise tayo. May surprise akong naramdaman. Lalo na over the weekend, narinig natin paulit-ulit na maaaring magkaroon ulit ng isang change of leadership. Pero ang panawagan naman natin noon at hanggang ngayon, hindi po dapat naapektuhan ng gulo sa Senate leadership ang proseso ng pananagutan.
Malacanang, for its part, says President Bongbong Marcos will not meddle in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says the trial is the mandate of the Senate, citing the separation of powers.
Meanwhile, the Senate has designated its committee chairpersons for key legislative panels. Senator Loren Legarda will continue to head the Committee on Culture and the Arts while also taking charge of the Basic Education panel. Senator Pia Cayetano has been named chair of the Committees on Ways and Means, Sustainable Development Goals, and Energy. Senator Bongo will lead both the Health and Sports Committees. Meanwhile, Senator Joel Villanueva will head the Higher Technical and Vocational Education Committee. Senator Jinggoy Estrada has been designated chair of the National Defense and Security Panel. Senator Robin Padilla retains the chairmanship of the Public Information and Mass Media Committee, as well as the Committee on Cultural Communities and Muslim Affairs. Senator Rodante Marcoleta, meanwhile, now heads the Public Services Committee.
Let's now bring in our mobile journalist Merimon Reyes for the latest over at the Senate. Merimon, what's happening there?
Angela, Diego, so far kahit mayroon ng designation ng ilang mga senador for their chairmanship ng iba't ibang komite, wala pa tayo nakikitang schedule ng hearing so far. Pwera na lang kahapon na yung Committee on Ways and Means, meron pa siyang ginawang hearing around 12 o'clock noon, and dahil incumbent na chairperson si Senator Pia Cayetano. She was from the old majority, still part of the new majority, so na-maintain yung committee na hawak niya. Pero later on sa session, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, inaasahan natin once again kung magsasalang na ng mga panukala either pending for approval, either on second or third reading, kung makakaroon man ng privilege speeches, or yung finalization ng majority sa iba pang kinakailangan na committee chairmanships. Pero for now, tahimik pa dito sa Senado, while si Senator Ping Lacson naman naglabas ng kanyang pahayag na asking for the public's vigilance ngayon nakapag-convene na formally and officially ang Senado bilang impeachment court.
Okay.
Go ahead. No.
Merimon, of course, ang pinag-uusapan dito kung sino ang magiging chairman ng Blue Ribbon Committee. Diba? Of course, that was chaired by Senator Ping Lacson during the Senate leadership of Tito Soto. But this time around, dumulutang ang dalawang pangalan, Rodante Marcoleta and Pia Cayetano. Sino ba ang matunog na uupo doon?
Nako, so far, wala pa tayo masasabi tungkol dyan. Pwede na lang sa session kapag ka-formally nang i-elect kung sino ang manunungkulan. Pero kasi dati, nung si former Senate President Jesus Cordero pa ang nanunungkulan, ang hawak din ng Blue Ribbon, ang may hawak sa Blue Ribbon rather si Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Nung si former SP Tito Soto naman ang nanungkulan, si Senator Ping Lacson naman ang may hawak ng Blue Ribbon. So now na, let's say, part ng majority, kasi laging majority ang may unang dibs o kaya yung may priority sa pamimili ng kanilang committee. So manggagaling lang talaga sa majority. So kung meron mang mag-a-align ng either experience, kasi pinaghuhugutan daw nila dito is either experience, advocacy, or alignment talaga nila. Ito yung mga pangalan na lumulutang, either Senator Rodante Marcoleta na may experience na sa paghawak ng Blue Ribbon, Senator Pia Cayetano, or others na kung sino ang mapag-uusapan ng majority. Kahapon din kasi after yung session, nag-caucus din ang mayorya. And while Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano wants to have communication from members of both the majority and minority tungkol sa magiging flow and proceeding ng impeachment, ito rin yung isa sa pinag-uusapan nila, yung magiging final na line-up naman ng committee chairmanships, which we may find out later in the afternoon.
And Merimon, also yung katanungan dito, yung mga ethics complaints against several senators na medyo tumihimik because of the recent developments, pero ano na plano nila dito? And si Senator JV ba will retain chairmanship over that committee?
Nako, yun nga eh. Ito kasi mga committee chairmanships, again, yung majority ang may unang dibs, ang may priority sa pamimili. Kaya nung Monday, nung nagkaroon ng coup d'etat or change of Senate leadership, naging bakante lahat din ng mga posisyon ng komite. So, simula nung Monday hanggang kahapon, walang naging schedule pa ang committee hearings. Ibig tenga pa sila. So kung may mga pending sila na bills, may pending silang legislative inquiries or inquiries in aid of legislation, lahat yun naka-hold muna for the meantime until magkaroon na ng final organization ng Senado. And yan naman yung sinasabi ni SP Cayetano kahapon. Priority niya rin daw, bukod doon sa pagkukonvene ng Senado bilang impeachment court, yung maorganisa na ang Senado para bukod sa the Senate is wearing two hats currently na kasi bilang impeachment court and yung legislative function nila. So ayaw naman daw nila na impeachment court lang ang pagtutuunan ng pansin. Kailangan na daw pagtuunan na ng pansin yung trabaho nila on the legislative matters. So for example, yung ethics committee, yung basic education nandyan na. Ang hinihintay pa natin, ethics, Blue Ribbon, especially ang finance committee. Kasi ang hinahabol ng lideratos dati nung si former SP Soto ang nanunungkulan, mapaaga yung pagpaprocess sa mga budget proposals o mga kakailanganin para daw hindi magahol come December or yung pirmahan before January of 2027. So marami pang mabibigat na committees na ngayon medyo nakapos pa Pero kung mamaya magkaroon na ng mga committee chairmanships, maaari na sila agad mag-reorganize and rumolyo na yung mga pending na mga pagdinig nila.
Ay, Meriman, quickly lang before we let you go, no, may tugon na ba si Senator Jingoy Estrada sa comment ng DOJ about yung case niya, yung recommendation sa Ombudsman?
Sa ngayon, wala pa. Even nung weeks ago, nung may mga umuugong pa kung magkakaroon pa siya ng charges against him or yung mga ginagawa pang investigations, ang nasabi sa atin kasi no comment daw muna yung kanilang panig. And they will be having their legal teams to speak on the matter or to tend to the process na kakailanganin. So far, wala pa tayong nakukuha ang komento mula sa Senador tungkol dyan.
Alright, maraming salamat, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes.
Senator Bato de la Rosa's whereabouts remain unknown as his allies say they do not know where he is. But the Solicitor General says his actions are consistent with those of a fugitive. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza with the report.
Wanted for crimes against humanity, Bato de la Rosa surrendered to International Criminal Court. Read one of these posters, which an Akbayan youth plastered in different areas in Quezon City. The progressive group is calling this campaign a people's manhunt of the former Duterte PNP chief turned lawmaker in hopes of making him accountable to alleged victims of extrajudicial killings during a bloody drug war. While the Justice Department has said it time and again that there is no official manhunt for De La Rosa, the DOJ said it intends to run after Bato once he tries to fly out of the Philippines. There is already an ILBO or Immigration Lookout Bulletin order against De La Rosa, courtesy of the agency. But the DOJ has also said it will act accordingly on whatever the Supreme Court's ruling will be. The senator, through his lawyers, has filed an urgent petition for a temporary restraining order on his arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. Last week, the SC has given state officials 72 hours to comment on De La Rosa's plea, something that the Office of the Solicitor General has already done. In an 83-page document, the OSG asked the High Tribunal to junk De La Rosa's urgent manifestation for lack of merit. The Solgen also took note of Senator Bato's actions, which are, quote, consistent with those of a fugitive from justice. The OSG adds, quote, the mantle of parliamentary immunity was never meant to be a shield against public accountability. The office, headed by Attorney Darlene Berberabe, likewise argued that the Executive Department can implement the ICC arrest warrant by virtue of Republic Act number 9851. Under the said law, a suspect or accused can be surrendered to an international court or tribunal like the ICC if the case involves genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. But where is the man of the hour after he walked away from the Senate's protective custody last week, doing so just hours after the upper chamber was thrown into chaos with gunfire? De La Rosa did not turn up in Monday's plenary session.
Wala po. That is very sincere. Sana po maniwala ang inyong mga taga-sunod na hindi po talaga we did not know when he was coming in and we did not know that he was leaving. Tandaan po nyo na military strategist si Bato at sanay po siya na gumawa ng mga bagay na alinsunod sa kanyang mga personal lamang na estratehiya.
For Bondoc, his client should not be called a fugitive.
Hindi po pwede maging fugitive ang isang tao na wala namang batas na tinatakbuhan. Dahil wala namang batas, wala namang warrant, at wala namang local charge sa kanya.
Another De La Rosa lawyer, Attorney Israelito Torion, also said he does not know where the senator is.
Well, as of the moment, di ko talaga alam kasi nung confirmed na umalis siya at 2:30 in the morning, nakaalis ako earlier mga 1:30 or 1:45 in the morning, no? Di kami nakapag-usap na meron siyang plano na ganun. Parang I don't know what happened after I left. So, nung dumating nga ako mga 9 o'clock in the morning, I really had no idea na wala na pala siya dun sa Senado.
May ugong-ugong na naman kasi na baka magkaroon ng change sa leadership in the Senate. Baka kakailanganin naman pong mag-appear ang inyo pong kliyente at bumoto na naman. Ano ho bang balita natin?
Well, that's an option also that can be decided only by Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Then, there are rumors of sighting Senator Bato at Naiya on a yacht or being escorted out by fellow Duterte ally, Senator Robin Padilla.
Sir, were you spotted in the NAIA terminal with Senator Bato?
Siguro naman po, walang sense naman yun. Bakit naman kami magpapakita sa airport pa?
Nasa Davao siya.
Ngayon? Naku, di ko alam.
For Malacanang, Bato's next move is simple.
Mas maganda po na bilang dating PNP chief at alam naman po niya na may valid warrant of arrest na inisyo ang ICC at katulad ng sinasabi dati ni Senator Robin Padilla, kung walang kasalanan, lumabas. Dito makikita niyo kung sino ang may respeto sa isang institusyon at sino ang hindi rumispeto sa batas.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Kabataan Party List Representative and House Prosecution Spokesperson Rene Co said the panel is ready for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial. In an interview with One News's Political Beat, Co expressed confidence in the evidence gathered during House hearings. She also noted that she was surprised by the Senate's decision to convene as an impeachment court on Monday. Co added that rumors of leadership changes in the upper chamber should not affect the impeachment proceedings.
Personally, no, in my personal capacity, may surprise tayo. May surprise akong naramdaman. Lalo na over the weekend, narinig natin, no, paulit-ulit na maaaring magkaroon ulit ng isang change of leadership. Pero ang panawagan naman natin noon at hanggang ngayon, hindi po dapat naapektuhan ng gulo sa Senate leadership ang proseso ng pananagutan. No? So kung sino man ang nandyan, no, consistent yung pressure ng mamamayan na hindi dapat makalusot, ang hindi pa rin sumasagot hanggang ngayon sa substance of the arguments na ngayon ay nasa articles of impeachment. Or even, no, yung mga kaalyado niya na tumatakbo literally from justice or from a warrant of arrest. So, inaasahan natin in the next coming days, no, pangahawakan ng Senate now convened as an impeachment court yung kanilang mga rules and regulations kung paano tutuloy-tuloy yung proseso. Siyempre, meron tayong fina-flag, no, throughout history, may mga iba't ibang moments na nakita natin na yung impeachment process, hinahanapan ng paraan para ma-shield, no, from further heat yung nakasalang o yung akusado. Whether that
yung nangyari last year, no?
Yeah, during the 19th Congress, may delay, no, literally na-transmit na yung articles ng February, may Supreme Court case na final, and yun yung tinuntungan ng Senate para June na, no, i-convene yung impeachment court, and every step of the way, mukhang hindi po na every session day, hinihintay ng taong bayan kung kailan ba magko-convene. Or even historically, kay former President Estrada, nagkaroon nga ng motion kung bubuksan ba yung envelope or hindi. So ngayon may tanong din, meron bang mga ebidensya na maaaring hindi maikonsidera o hindi? No, lalo na't meron pang box, no, from BIR, nandun yung sealed tax return si VP Sara. No, so yung mga yan, mga agam-agam ng mamamayan. Pero para sa representasyong ito, kung lahat naman tayo ay nag-apply ng consistent pressure, pinaparamdam natin na yung panawagan natin sa pananagutan, urgent and necessary, hindi po kailangan mangamba. Kailangan po, no, magtiwala sa proseso.
Joining us now is Bicol Saro Representative Terry Ridon, one of the House prosecutors in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Hi, Kong.
Kong, thank you for
Good morning
joining
again.
us.
Magandang umaga. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita.
All right, Kong, well, now that the Senate has finally convened as the impeachment court, now what comes next? What can we expect?
Inaasahan ho natin within 10 days yung pong answer ni Vice President Sara Duterte. After which, pagka meron na pong sagot, sasagot naman po ang prosecution panel within 5 days. No? After which, magkakaroon na po ng pre-trial. Yung pre-trial po, ito na po yung magtatakda kung alin ho yung mga dokumento, ebidensya na hindi na ho kailangan na pagdebatihan pa during the course of the trial. Basically, kung ano ho yung pwedeng pag-agrihan po ng mga ebidensya no pong depensa at prosecution. So, yun po yung stage yan, and inaantay din po natin yung binabanggit po niya Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano doon po sa yung pong calendars no
Okay.
nito pong schedule of all the proceedings po ng impeachment trial.
There was several legal luminaries who were asking yung medyo peculiar daw yung hiningian ng comment din or yung reply yung prosecution team, given na basically yung gusto nyong sabihin nandun na daw sa evidence. Dapat daw standardly dapat si VP Sara lang daw hiningian ng comment.
Hindi rin naman. It is nothing out of the ordinary kasi siyempre baka may mga bago din pong binanggit, no? Si VP Sara doon po sa kanya pong answer na maganda din pong makapag-komento at makapag-reply yung pong prosecution panel para basically tapos na tapos po yung pong mga pleadings between the parties.
Well, should the public expect additional evidence or witnesses that have not yet been disclosed?
Yung pong mga dagdag naman pong mga ebidensya, yan po yung mga hindi po nagawa no, during the House Justice Committee proceedings. Yung una, yung po unsealing po ng BRR box. Pangalawa, yung po opening po ng mga bank accounts no, Vice President Sara Duterte at ng kanya pong asawa. Kasi dyan lang po, sa level po ng trial, pwede pong gawin yung dalawang bagay po na ito.
And also, could you also educate us or perhaps give us clarification on the what is the legal significance of the prosecution panel appearing before the impeachment court, formally, no, officially appearing before the impeachment court yesterday?
Well, hindi ko kami natuloy kahapon. Supposedly, we wanted to be there to give respect no, to the proceedings itself and also to give respect to the Senate impeachment court. No? Kasi syempre sa amin po nagmula yung po articles of impeachment. So rightfully, dapat po maganda nandun din po kami. But very efficient po yung proseso kahapon. Ano? So it did not require our presence naman po. So ultimately, nagpapasalamat po kami sa Senado dahil they had convened forthwith ito pong impeachment trial po na ito.
Kung baka naman you could shed some light on this kasi isa pa pinagdidebatihan nila sa Senado po yung usapin ng should a senator judge be allowed to give in their verdict through electronic means, no? Siguro this is pertaining to Senator Bato de la Rosa in case na he can't be physically present during the trial, makakast ng kanyang yung vote through electronic. Is this allowed, Kong?
I think it is something that was being proposed no in the last week. Pero wala pa naman hong pagkakapinal po dyan po sa bagay po na yan. No? Pero I think very important ho na in-person po yung voting for such a very important proceeding. No? So we will leave it to them to make their own rules po on the matter. Pero I think as we speak, wala pa naman pong voting or participation through electronic means.
Ay, Kong, by the way, ano po yung final designation natin sa teams nyo dito sa impeachment, articles of impeachment?
Well, yung pong mga prosecutors po, hinati-hati na po yan doon sa iba't ibang mga articles, no? So, for example, I can speak for myself. Ako na po yung kasama doon sa unexplained wealth at confidential funds misuse. Pero yung po nga pagkakahati-hati po kasi depende yun doon sa laki po nung article, no? Based on documents, witnesses, and evidence. No? So, for example, sa unexplained wealth, mas marami pong mga nakatoka na mga prosecutors doon as against, for example, yung pong threats against the president kasi mas ilan lang naman ho yung pong mga dokumento at ebidensya po on threats, no? Compared to unexplained wealth.
Kung what other preparations po is the prosecution panel is doing, especially in terms of yung pagdating po sa mismong korte, no? Kasi I understand, well, all of you po are lawyers, hindi po lahat masyado, kumbaga parang hindi naman po lahat po kayo nagpa-practice na everyday tungkol po sa mga proseso sa korte. So, meron po ba kayong mga kinakausap din ng mga iba pang lawyers regarding this?
Well, dyan po papasok yung kahalagahan po ng private prosecutors, no? So, tumutulong din po sila doon sa paghahanda para sa kaso. At syempre, pati doon ho sa trial, yung tinatawag na trial technique. So, may paghahanda rin po kami patungkol po dito kasi syempre, kahalinhinan po namin private prosecutors doon po sa pag-direct or cross-examine ng mga witnesses po during the trial proper.
And how significant is the role of Congressman Chel Jokno here, no? Knowing na siya po ay bihasa po sa mga ganitong klaseng proseso?
Well, malaki po yung kanya pong papel dito. Kasi syempre, before naman going to Congress, siya po ay practicing lawyer, no?
Yes.
So, kasama din po siya doon sa makakapagbigay po ng tips, no? At knowledge doon po sa trial techniques. Dahil pinagdadaanan po niya ito doon sa kanya pong law practice.
What about expenses po? Meron po bang significant amount po na nilalaan na budget ang House Prosecution Panel pagdating po dito sa impeachment?
Within the budget naman po of the House itself, no, yung pong pondo na ginagamit po doon sa impeachment preparations and on this impeachment effort, no. So there's nothing extraneous to the current budget po of the House that is being spent on the impeachment effort po natin.
And Kong, given yung numbers ngayon sa Senado, I believe majority is 12 and then 11 yung sa minority, and we all know kung ano yung political alliances nila. How confident is the prosecution team na the evidence can sway a few from the other side, maybe to give a positive or a guilty verdict on your part?
Ultimately po, all we have is basically the evidence, no, to convince the Senate and judges to act on whether to convict or to acquit the Vice President. No? So, kung they will base it on their evidence and they will base it on their conscience, hopefully, talaga pong magiging conviction po yung magiging ending po nito pong impeachment trial po na ito.
I remember talking to you about this, Kong, na ang bise naman pagdating dito sa impeachment trial na ito, pwede siya hindi umattend. Pero po ngayon na meron pong writ of summons mula po sa mismong Senate Impeachment Court, ito po ba ay nangangahulugan na ito po mandatory na dapat nandoon siya mag-take ng stand habang nililitis po yung kanyang kaso? Or okay lang yung abogado niya to be present there?
Tama po yun. Pwede hong yung abogado lang po niya yung maging present, no, doon po sa kabuuan po ng trial. Nakadepende po sa pangalang Pangulo at sa kanya pong defense team kung ano po yung pinakamaganda po para sa kanila, kung mas maganda ho bang naroon siya or kung will she take the witness stand during the course of the proceedings, no. So we will leave it to them po. Sa dulo naman ho, it is her right to be there or not to be there.
Pero kung may pagkakataon po na siya po ay talagang papuntahin ng Senate Impeachment Court, obligahin na pumunta doon at hindi siya pumunta, ano po yung maaaring mangyari?
Hindi ko alam. I don't think it is in the rules that they can actually oblige the accused or the respondent, no, to appear before the Senate Impeachment Court. Kasi, syempre, there is the right against self-incrimination. So, pahala po ang defense panel to make that determination. I don't think the impeachment court itself will order anyone to actually take the stand.
And of course, nagiging, baka naman you could also give your 2 cents worth on this. Pinag-uusapan rin ngayon among legal experts is, what if during the trial, si VP Sara, I'm sure you've heard of this, and I'm sure you've talked about this, VP Sara resigns in the middle of the trial. Should the impeachment court continue with the trial or parang given na hindi na dapat ituloy?
Well, ultimately, magpapasya po dyan yung impeachment court itself na, no? Kung magpapatuloy pa rin sila o hindi, no? Kasi, syempre, meron hong actual na debate, no? Kung pag ba nag-resign na, dapat pa bang magtuloy o hindi? Or kahit mag-resign pa, may pinag-uusapan hong perpetual disqualification from the public office, no? So, I think that is ultimately going to be decided not by the prosecution or by the defense, but by the Senate Impeachment Court already. No? So we will leave it to them when we reach that point.
Well, finally, what would you say to Filipinos who are closely watching this process, who have become skeptical about this na because of what happened in the past days? Ano po ba yung kanilang dapat malaman?
Well, very important po yung participation po ng ating po mga kababayan dito sa bagay po na ito, whether for or against the Vice President. No? Kasi mahalaga po na wag ho natin na pabayaan lang po yung mga politiko, yung mga kongresista, senador, impeachable officials, no? Na lang po ang lumalahok dito sa bagay na ito. Kasi sa dulot-dulo naman po, ito po ay tungkol sa ating lahat. No? So, yung po accountability ng public officials po natin at malaki po yung papel ng mga kababayan po natin dito mismo.
All right, with that, thank you very much for your time. Bicol Saro Representative Terry Ridon for joining us on the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Maraming salamat.
Now, in other news, thousands of last-minute registrants flocked to voter registration sites in Manila on the final day before the deadline for the 2026 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Mobile journalist Francis Rivera has the report.
Registration sites saw a massive influx of citizens scrambling to register before the 2026 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan election deadline on Monday. Some line up in the holding area as early as 7 a.m., an hour before offices open at 8 a.m. District 1, which has the largest voting population in Manila, implemented a cut-off and closed just past 12 noon. As a result, many last-minute registrants were left disappointed after failing to register. Among them was Marvin, who missed the cut-off due to parking difficulties and work commitments.
Hindi pa kami ng parking, kaya tagal lang kami. Sobrang kakaiikot, doble ikot. Sobrang tagal yan. Ngayon lang kami nakakatog. Ngayon lang may bakating oras eh. Busy sa trabaho.
Many said they made time to register despite school commitments, citing current social and political issues as among their reason for signing up.
I think it's important po to be socially aware at politically aware kasi hindi rin naman po yan para sa atin kasi pangkalahatan na rin po yan.
Majority din po ng mga youth ay meron pong ipinaglalaban dahil po sa kanilang experiences, and ito pong pagpaparegister ay isa pong progreso and step para matupad po yung pagbabago na ninanais ng bawat Pilipino po.
I realize as well the importance of being a voter and how our voice holds so much power and how it should be used for the right thing for the right people.
According to the Commission on Elections, around 4.7 million registered voters have been recorded since registration opened in October last year. There is no memorandum yet on whether the voter registration will be extended once again. Mga kapatid, mobile journalist Francis Rivera, we are One News.
Now let's discuss that report further with COMELEC spokesperson, Attorney John Rex Laudianco. Attorney, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Attorney.
Magandang umaga po, Sir Angelo, Ma'am Angela, sa lahat po ng taga-subaybay ng News and Views. Good morning po.
All right, Attorney, may final number na ba tayo sa registrants for this coming elections?
Wala pa po dahil lalong-lalo na po dito sa NCR. Karamihan po ay nakatapos around 10 or 11 p.m. kagabi dahil pinilit nilang matapos yung mga nakasama. Pero sapat po siguro na kung ang last na datos po natin noong May 16 ay around 5.2 million. Baka po hindi tayo magtataka kung aabot tayo ng mga around 5.4 million kung isasama na po natin yung kahapon po.
Pero based sa initial reports po, Attorney, kamusta na ang kwento ng mga on the ground? Do we see an increase in the number of registrants as compared to yung mga previous?
Nako, napakalaki po. Alam niyo po, yung figure lang ng 5.2 million in less than 7 months, yan po ang pinakamalaki. Historic po yung figure na yan sa kasaysayan ng election registration cycle ng COMELEC. In fact, kaya nga po naglabas dun sa aming resolution para sa registration yung last day scenario dahil na-anticipate na namin itong buhos na to ng ating mga kababayan. Kaya po sa umaga pa lang, inutusan na ang lahat ng election officers na alamin hanggang saan ang capacity nila. And normally po, nasa 800 to 1,000 lang yan. Pero ang natapos po nila kahapon ay nag-average ng 1,500 to 2,200. Example po ay Taguig. Ang capacity lang yan ay 800. Pero ang natapos po nila kahapon, 2,200. So talaga pong nag-exceed sa capacity yung ating mga kasamahan.
Well, Attorney Spokes, I understand yung voter registration application will still undergo Election Registration Board or ERB. Can you tell us more about it?
Tama po. Ito po yung requirement ng Republic Act 8189 kung saan 3 steps po yan. Una, lahat ng application po ay pinopost para sa kaalaman, due notice to everyone dun sa barangay at dun din po sa aming tanggapan ng election officer ng mga city hall. Pangalawa, merong pong pagkakataon para po yung mga kababayan natin ay magsumite ng opposition. Dahil halimbawa nakita nila itong tao na to ay hindi talaga yan dapat ma-register sa atin. Yan po ay hindi dapat makasama, i-oppose. At binibigyan din po natin ng pagkakataon yung kababayan natin na ino-oppose na masabi po na hindi, meron akong ebidensya, meron akong patunay na talagang qualified ako dito. Ang lahat po ito ay magaganap bago mag-June 1 kung saan yun po yung mismong araw ng ERB hearing. By the way, ang ERB po, ang Election Registration Board, ay hindi lamang COMELEC. Kasama po dyan ang ating civil registrar, yung pinakamataas na official ng DepEd. So kung makikita nyo po, itong body na to ay binuo ng ating batas para suriin, salain at aprubahan o i-disapprove yung mga klase ng application po.
Pero ano po yung magiging basehan ng ito pong ERB para po ma-disqualify or hindi po ma-register ang isang aplikante?
Kwalifikasyon po, Ma'am Angel at Sir Angelo, no? Ganito po yan. Ang kwalifikasyon ng isang botante, dapat ikaw ay Filipino citizen. Dapat ikaw ay nakatira dyan sa barangay na yan at least 6 months. Residente ka pa dyan, counted ng November 2. So maaaring nung nagparehistro ka, hindi ka pa nakaka 6 months, pero by November 2, naka 6 months ka na. Yan po yung ating mga basihan at huligit sa lahat, yung edad. Para po sa ating SK, dapat po ay at least 15 years old ka by November 2. So tinanggap din po namin yung hindi pa 15 but on or before November 2 ay 15 na siya, pwede na yan. At sa barangay, 18 years old. Ganon din po. Tinatanggap din po namin. Halimbawa, merong desisyon ang korte o kaya po ang isang competent authority na ang isang tao ay insane. Ibig sabihin po wala sa tamang pag-iisip, clinically insane siya, hindi po yan kapansamantalang binabawi ang kanyang karapatang bumoto. Meron din pong dinidisqualify ang batas, nakagawa ng krimen. Kasama sa kanyang parusa yung forfeiture of the right to suffrage. So ito pong mga bagay na to ay kino-consider din ng ating ERB sa kanilang pag-approve at disapprove. And by the way, hindi po komplikado ito. Hindi kailangan mag-appear yung mga kababayan natin. Dinig kasi hearing, baka kailangan ba ako magpunta, kumuha ng abogado, hindi naman po. Ito po yung proseso na kita ko kanina, posting, pagpapadala ng notices, ganun kasimple po yan. So para sa ikapapayapa ng ating kababayan, kung wala po kayong natanggap na notice na kayo ino-oppose at pinagsusumite ng ebidensya, wala po dapat kayong problema. Kung wala rin kayong matatanggap na dinisapprove ng ERB ang inyong application, wala rin po kayong dapat maging problema. Ay isa pa po, kung gusto nyo makasiguro, pwede nyo pong tignan ngayon sa mga susunod na araw yung pagpo-post namin ng pangalan ninyo, mga nag-a-apply, and then thereafter po, pagkatapos ng June 1, yung mga pangalan ng naaprubahan ng mga application for registration.
Attorney, madaming kasi questions also about yung if you missed, you're not able to vote in the last elections and you don't vote in this barangay elections, does that mean po deactivated ka for the next, for the national elections?
Tama po, dahil ang malinaw po ang Republic Act 8189, dalawang regular na halalan na hindi ka makaboto, ikaw ay de-deactivate.
Okay.
Pansamantalang aalisin sa talaan ng listahan. At kung titignan nyo po yung kaninang napag-usapan natin na 5.2 million, halos 1 million po dyan ay yung mga dating na-deactivate at ngayon ay nagpa-reactivate na. Sila po ay bumabalik. So sa makatweet po, karagdagan din sila. And by the way, ang projection po namin, more or less 1.5 million na dagdag para sa SK, 1.5 million na dagdag para sa barangay. At yun nga po, yung mga nagpa-reactivate, around 1 million din po yan.
Attorney, I don't know kasi kakatapos lang ng registration, no? Pero based sa eye test nyo, do you see yung mga new registrants for this election are of the younger generation? Kasi may mga reports also from several of the reporters, based sa nakikita lang, parang nagiging mas engaged yung youth ngayon.
Nako, tama po yung nabanggit niyo. Yan po din po ang aming initial assessment na talagang kabataan po ang nag-compose ng bulk ng ating registrants. In fact, hindi po ito bago. Alam niyo po ba yung halala natin noong May 2025? 82.20% po ang voter turnout natin. More than 50% of that 82% po ay age 18 to 30 years old o kasama pa rin po sa ating youth. So talaga pong nakikita natin napakataas ng engagement at involvement ng ating youth po.
Yun nga po, kasi yesterday we've seen the last minute crowd. So I was wondering kung meron po bang batayan sa batas po o sa rules ng COMELEC na maaaring i-extend, or are you planning to extend this registration para mas maka-accommodate pa ng gustong bumoto?
Naku, kami po ay mapagkumbabang humihingi po ng pangunawa at paumanhin po dahil wala na po talagang extension pa, wala na pong special voter registration. Sinimulan po natin ito October 20 pa, Lunes po hanggang Sabado at kahit holidays po bukas ang COMELEC. In fact, ang nagpahinto lang po sa amin deklarasyon ng walang pasok nung mga meron pong bagyo, baha, yung nga po pumutok ang bulkan dyan po sa bandang south, pati na rin po sa Kamalig, na natiling bukas ang opisina ng COMELEC. Lumindol sa may Ilocos, bukas po ang opisina ng COMELEC. Yan po yung nakalulungkot na napakahatagal na kaming nakabukas, ngunit magsisiksikan. Hindi naman po namin sinisisi, kaya lang sana po may paraan para maiwasan ito. Sana po pumunta na kahit nung holiday dahil nandyan naman po at bukas ang opisina ng COMELEC.
At attorney, confirm ko lang, itong barangay election, manual counting po ba ang gagawin dito?
Tama po, manual voting, manual counting at makikita nyo rin po dun sa mismong presinto sa paaralan, dun bibilangin ang balota, dun na magkakanvas at pati po yung proclamation, pagpoproklama ng nanalo, dun na rin po gagawin yun. Siguro yun na rin po yung dahilan kung bakit talagang hindi kami binibigyan ng budget para mag-automate ang halalan dahil maaring hindi po kinakailangan dahil sa barangay lamang po ito. Sinusulat ang boto, babasahin, dun na lang bibilangin. At para matulungan po yung ating mga teachers sa kanilang gampani na yan, asahan po ninyo na ibababa namin ang bilang ng botante kada presinto ng mga around 600 pababa po. Dahil po pag national elections, 800 to 1,000 po tayo per presinto. Pero dahil manual elections, 600 or lesser po ang ating in-expect na botante kada presinto.
Meron po ba tayong naitalang aberya kahapon sa last day po ng registration? Meron po ba tayong mga naipabalita na mga pumila pero hindi po umabot sa cut-off at hindi po nakapagpa-register?
Marami po, halos lahat po dito sa NCR ay ganyan po yung balita na wala naman pong kaguluhan. Siyempre po, merong talagang complaints, merong pag-angal, inaasahan naman po namin yan. Kaya lang po talagang, again po, kami mapagkumbabang humihingi ng pangunawa dahil may limitasyon po talaga ang kakayanan ng irehistro sa loob ng isang araw. In fact nga po, nag-exceed sila. Sample nga po namin ng Taguig. Ang normal na capacity po niyan ay 800 na tao kada araw. Ngunit sila'y naghanda na para sa 1,500. Niready na nila ang kanilang sarili. Ngunit higit pa dyan ang naparegister nila. Nakaabot po sila ng mahigit 2,200 kaya halos mag-aalas 12 ng gabi nandun pa rin sila. Ngunit talaga pong hanggang doon na lamang, hanggang 2,200 na lang, yung lumampas po doon, hindi na po nila talaga kayang i-register pa. Sana po maunawaan po, tumihingi kami ng pangunawa po ng ating mga kababayan.
Alright, thank you so much for your time, Attorney John Rex Laudianco, COMELEC spokesperson. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Magandang umaga po. God bless po.
A new report highlights rising illicit vape and tobacco trade in Southeast Asia, driving major revenue losses in the Philippines. Mobile journalist Jas Paredes reports.
Talks of a total vape ban in the country have resurfaced in recent weeks. Then, another tobacco-related issue continues to deepen. Over the past 2 years, the country has lost an estimated 141 billion pesos in government revenue due to the illicit tobacco trade. A key finding in a report released on May 19 by the EU-ASEAN Business Council and Euromonitor International. The report also shows that more than 4 in 5 e-vapes, or 86% sold in the Philippines, are illicit, the highest among assessed ASEAN countries where vapes are legal.
The revenue loss is quite significant within each of the markets, and it's one of the key things that kind of supports that illicit industry. And this is something that multiple prong aspects needs to be taken in order to support and kind of reduce that impact to each of the individual markets.
Meanwhile, Indonesia recorded the highest government revenue loss among the ASEAN 6 at $5.6 billion, followed by Malaysia and the Philippines. Illicit operations are also found to be rising year on year, depriving governments of much-needed tax revenue, while the growth of illicit cigarettes may decline over the next 3 years. Illicit e-vapes are projected to grow faster with an annual increase of 8.5%, posing greater health risks to consumers.
It's still going to be more e-vapes driven. We are seeing some higher consumption patterns in terms of trending.
You're not controlling what's inside the vapes. You're losing revenue, of course. But if you're running an illicit vape business, you care less about what's inside it. All you're caring about is making the money.
Findings also show that most illicit cigarettes produced in Southeast Asia come from Cambodia and Indonesia, with additional supply coming from China. Meanwhile, illicit e-vapes are mostly imported from China and disguised as retail goods for e-commerce. Hotspots for illegal smuggling include ports within free trade zones or FTZs, such as Port Klang in Malaysia, Lim Chabang Port in Thailand, Sabang Batam in Indonesia, and the Subic Bay Freeport Zone in the Philippines. However, talks for coordination with the Philippine government are now underway.
Certainly, we're working with customs authorities across the region. They recognize the problem. They recognize the problem that they're facing in enforcement, and they want to work with the private sector to try and tackle the issue. You've got to remember that customs are only part of the problem, and often they are under-resourced.
So I think we've discussed matters around regulation, enforcement, understanding, education. All of this plays a part into that illicit environment, and not just because of taxation.
Kapatid Jas Paredes, we are One News.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on The One News.
The International Criminal Court, or ICC, has formally recognized British lawyer Peter Haines as the new counsel for former President Rodrigo Duterte. Based on an ICC filing, Duterte signed the appointment form on May 13, while Haines accepted the role on the same day. The ICC registry confirmed the appointment on May 15. Duterte is facing crimes against humanity charges over his administration's war on drugs. The ICC prosecutor earlier recommended that his trial begin on November 30, but Haines has sought a new fitness review for Duterte and more time to prepare for trial should the former president be found fit to stand trial.
In weather, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, is currently affecting southern Mindanao. Cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms are expected over Zamboanga Peninsula, BARMM, Soxargen, as well as Davao Oriental and Davao Occidental. The Visayas and the rest of Mindanao will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms due to the easterlies, while Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon may experience similar conditions brought by localized thunderstorms. Meanwhile, water levels in the Angat and San Roque dams continue to decline over the past 24 hours. Pagasa attributed the drop to reduced inflows from watershed rainfall and river sources and persistent dry conditions across the country. Filipino cyclist Ronila Nakita proves he can keep up with some of the best riders in this year's Tour of Luzon as he finished in the top 5 overall. Mobile Journal Denise Valdez Sancho reports.
For Ronil Ankita, this year's Tour of Luzon was the product of years of sacrifice. From international races in India back in January to non-stop training leading up to the tour, preparations never stopped.
Una po yan, nag-India po kami, January, tsaka nag-ensayo na tuloy-tuloy na po yan hanggang Tour of Luzon po.
The hard work paid off. At 31 years old, the Tarlac native emerged as one of the strongest Filipino riders in the tour, finishing 5th in the general classification against a stacked international field.
Sobrang saya po, ma'am, kasi ngayon lang ako nag-top 5 sa ganitong mga laro.
One of his most memorable moments came during Stage 9 from Luwag City to Condon City, where he finished 4th in the stage individual classification and claimed the Most Combative Rider award. But for Kita, it was also a stage of what-ifs.
Mag-stage win po sana kaso naligaw po, ma'am.
Despite the misstep, Kita says the experience taught him important lessons, especially racing alongside World Tour level athletes.
Yung communication sa mga ka-team, ma'am, tsaka madami akong natutunan kasi may World Tour po kaming kasama.
With Kita helping lead the way, 7-Eleven Click Road Bike Philippines eventually captured the team classification title and the 2 million top prize of the 2026 MPTC Tour of Luzon. Now, the team shifts its focus to its next international challenge, The tour of the Gyeongnam in Korea this June.
Huwag niyong pabayaan na ano ma'am. Saka sa mga pamilya ko po, maraming sa suporta sa akin. Ma'am.
Kapatid Denise Valdesancho, we are One News.
As Metro Manila feels heat, a
Sorry.
forester says the right trees can help cool down cities. Mobile journal Ray Vicente has the report.
Summer is still here, and trees are just what we needed that act as a natural umbrella. However, as Metro Manila covers a total land area of approximately 630 kilometers, a report from Science Connect shows there are very few rich forests in the city, contributing to more urban heat. Yet a forester echoed that trees in those forests are not enough to provide cooling effect today.
Meron namang ibang mga puno na malawak nga yung area ng crown niya, pero hindi naman masyadong green yung dahon, hindi masyadong dark. So yung cooling effect niya ay medyo mababa. Pag may mga puno sa Metro Manila kung saan mataas ang concentration most likely mataas ang concentration ng CO2 in the atmosphere, may mga puno na magsisequester ng carbon from the atmosphere.
A tree's canopy is still the best tool and solution that pulls heat out of the environment, especially in the urban city.
Halimbawa, yung kalsada, pag nalililiman yan, walang masyadong singaw ng init, di ba? Mas mababa yung temperatura. Yung init na nararanasan natin sa ngayon, ay yung garden sa loob, hindi masyadong ramdam yan. Psychologically, maybe, panahon na talagang seryosohin natin yung pagdating ng puno para magkaroon tayo ng lilim. Kasi kung ngayon nga ay halos hindi na tayo magkandaw-gaga, halos hindi na natin matiis yung sobrang init, so lalo pa kaya siguro 5 to 10 years from now.
Meanwhile, the expert also cited that green spaces today shouldn't solely be for aesthetic appeal. Planted trees should have a big crown and plentiful leaves to provide extra shade.
Mga nakatayong buildings, mga puro semento kasi, of course, pag yung radiation niyan, yung init niyan, sisingaw, so lahat yan nakaka-apekto o nakakadagdag sa init sa syudad. So modern engineering, mahalaga na i-incorporate yung green spaces sa kanilang mga plano. Hindi lamang makaka-improve ng landscape, ng aesthetic appeal ng syudad, but can also improve of course, yung health ng taga-urban. Yung hindi masyadong naglalagas yung dahon.
As El Nino is just around the corner, the forester recommended trees that are fit to grow in the city.
Hindi sobrang laki, hindi sobrang taas, hindi rin masyadong malalaki yung roots. Kasi pag malaking roots, sisirayan yung mga pavements. Pag evergreen kasi, generally, green throughout the year. May shade buong taon. Kasi may mga puno kasi na nalalagas yung dahon. Halimbawa, nara. Halimbawa nito yung balitbitan, hindi yan sobrang lumalaking puno. We can try also gakakan, dark green din yung kanyang foliage.
Kapatid Ray Vicente, we are One News.
Pag magpuputol ng puno. Ibang...
Sasabihin mo?
Wala. Go.
Wala na. Naghang na ako eh. Yun. Alright, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsan Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.